Hello, welcome to the TV room. David Bradley here. I have here another great work of art. I'll call this Dave 2. And this one, the name of the person is indeed clearly written on the bottom. It was Ji-yoon Park. Jeyoonpark. So, as I said in the other video, Ji-yoon, if you're out there and you see this, and you think for even half of an instant of a second, or a millisecond, that you should have been allowed to take this home, and that somehow the art teacher that set it aside for me did not have your permission, and you really, really wanted it yourself, then do let me know. Anyway, back to the artwork. Now, this is the same day, same pose, but of course, because see, literally, I was sitting in a room, I was sitting in a chair, but everybody was not at the same angle, as they say. They always say this when involved in all kinds of things. Oh, well, that's from your perspective. Well, this was the perspective that they had. So as I sat in the chair, they would have been slightly to my left. And while the other artist, who I don't know who it was, decided that they would draw all of me, that was not what happened in this case. They sort of went kind of, waist up. And it's different. I mean, it's funny. There's more detail in some areas, but still, like, less in others. For example, I think there's more detail on the camera, but also it's not so clear. I would say the best part that I find, and I found a lot of them were the eyes. They all seem to do really well with my eyes. And then, of course, I mean, this is their artistic interpretation, their artistic expression. Their, what do I see and how am I going to do this in the, it was probably 75 minutes that they had. Although, there was a couple who needed more time. And indeed, I did on a couple of occasions go back and, making reference to the picture that was taken, I did sit for a couple of people who had not been able to finish. So here is Dave 2. It is the same camera. I'm just trying to look and see. I don't see the microphone in this one, but see, once again, it's a different perspective. I would think, in looking at it, that maybe they were, maybe 30 degrees to the left, maybe, possibly. So they got more of a profile, whereas the other one was more straight on. And while they, I mean, it's the same hat, it's the same whatever, but it certainly, there's less. It's kind of like there's an expression in photography when, and you can do this afterwards, where you kind of soften the edges. Um, I don't. I should remember. I do it all the time sometimes, but I don't remember. But it's kind of like my arm is there, but there's not a whole lot of details, just kind of the outline. And it's sort of like, there's another thing I've used on other things, where it's like you get a picture, and there's this thing I think it's called soft focus, or where you can basically say, okay, I want this part to be very much in focus, and the rest I want it to be less. And this kind of reminds me of that, where I think my face is in great detail and very well done. And from there outward, it kind of gets softer. And anyway, still magnificent. And it's funny, I'm sure I'm never going to make it on a stamp, but some of these would be good things to be on a stamp. They would. I said, I really haven't shared these with anyone. They've been sitting around in the same folder, and once in a while I look at them and I say, "Oh yeah, yeah, I should frame these." And by the way, on the easels that they did them on, they all have little holes up in the top corners because they were pinned onto the easels. And once again, they use pencil, and that's funny. I don't know if it was all the same pencil or different kinds of pencil, because of course some areas are quite dark, some areas are quite a bit lighter. And is that just done by, you know, doing it lighter? I don't know. I'm not an artist. I enjoy taking pictures, doing photography, and capturing the moments that would otherwise be lost in video. Much the same. It's a great thing, but I can't draw. So these people have trained, probably many of them, since they were little, on various techniques and things. And I know there's a great fellow, Cameron Hood, who came in a couple of times, and he had his own style, but he would also draw things in the styles of various masters. He would. Now, he was not there as a student when I was there. He came back as a visiting artist. He is now um, a director in Hollywood. Quite a fine fellow. Quite an interesting character. Beyond interesting. And I had not had much contact with him, but I do cherish the times that we were able to spend together. And on that horrible day that I heard that his art teacher and a colleague and a great friend of mine was not going to be living much longer, even though it was late at night, I did call him, because it was a rather quick and sudden thing. Not that it was over yet, but it was um, very unexpected. And I know he was still awake, and I'm sure he was surprised, because I don't know if I'd ever really called him before, but he was glad to be made aware that he could reach out. And many people actually reached out. Not a whole lot of people were able to see Gary Lowe, who was the teacher in question, but many, many, many of them wrote messages, and I passed them all on to the people who were around him in his final days and moments, although I did get to see him a couple of times. Um, and I know that some people who he would have wanted to see actually did get to see him because of a message I put up on Facebook. But more than that, people who had no chance of seeing him were able to write their remembrances and thoughts and such. And I know that everyone that made it before the ending was read to him. And I was happy to be part of that. Anyway, so here we have Dave 2. Another great work. Different than the first, but each artist that's their own thing. And the more I look at my face in this, the more I think, boy, they sure got it. They surely did. Anyway, I'm glad that these were left for me to hang on to. And as I said before, especially if Ji Yoon thinks at all that this should have gone home with them, then do let me know. I will. Yeah, I really need to look into it. And when I say framing, I'm not going to go to a frame shop and pay them hundreds of thousands or whatever. But these, I think they're all pretty much on, I think, 24 by 36, and basically kind of a poster size. I'm sure I can find some kind of frames, etc. And of course, I'll make sure I get them all the same, and then perhaps I'll hang them in the gallery of Dave. And hmm, I think once I maybe have them in that, I'm still working in another school. It's not an art school, but there are art people in the school. Maybe I'll bring some of these in at some point to show and share and inspire. Because even though people aren't in an art school, there's some great artists that aren't in the arts programs. They're just great. Some people, actually, the fellow I spoke of, Gary Lowe, there was a student of his who um, was such a wonderful artist that at some point, I'm not sure in what year he was, he, the teacher, took him down to the office and said, "He's leaving the school. There's nothing we can teach him. He's well beyond." And indeed, he did go on to have a wonderful art career. And Gary was right. There was no point in him wasting his time in high school. I don't know the whole story, but it actually reminded me. I saw a thing just recently. Albert Einstein, at some point in his young years, some teacher at his school essentially sent home a letter to his mother saying much the same. There's nothing we can teach him. You should, teach him yourself. He's a genius. So, anyway, thanks for coming. Have a lovely, lovely day, and soon, perhaps, we'll see Dave number 3. Bye for now.